how I've worked remotely for over 13 years. Let me guess, until recently you thought working remotely was some mythical thing that only developers did. But since the pandemic, you've been exposed to the myth. Either you've been forced to work remotely, work from home, or you know someone who does. It's true, the pandemic definitely made working remotely much more of a common thing, but remote work's been around for a very long time. I've been working remotely since 2008, and in this video I'm going to break down for you how I've worked remotely over the last 13 years. Let's get into it. My name is Labria Jones. I'm also known as the Remote Work Queen, and I took a group of people around the world back in 2016, and ever since I returned in 2017, I've been teaching people how to find and land remote work. I have a free guide, I have an online course, I host a conference called the Quit Commuting Conference twice a year. It's happening April 23rd through the 25th of 2022, so if you're watching this video before then, make sure you sign up for that. And I also have a community where people get a lot more access to master classes, resources, education, information, and support to help them find and land remote work. So let's get into my story about working remotely. Before we get into that story, I do want to tell you there are 4 ways that you can work remotely. And I happen to have worked remotely in every single way there is. The first way that you can work remotely is the most common way that people know, and that is to find a job with a company that hires remote employees. That is the most common way people think of to get a remote job, and I have done that. The second way is to work as a freelancer. So as I'm telling you my story, I'm going to tell you a little bit about freelancing as well, and freelancing is basically using your skills to work remotely and to make money. The third way is starting a digital business. And this can be slightly different from freelancing for a lot of reasons. I'll go into that in another video. The fourth way is convincing your employer to let you work remotely. This is one that a lot of people overlook. A lot of people don't realize you have quite a bit of brand equity at your current company. And what I mean by brand equity is your name, who you are, how you're valued at work. A lot of people have built up a lot of brand equity at work and they don't want to leave their jobs, but have you considered porting that job over? So those are the 4 ways that you can work remotely, and I've done it in every single way. I'm going to tell you my story, starting with my very first remote job was in 2008. I was the mom of a toddler at the time. My daughter was about 3 years old, and we had recently moved to Atlanta. And I don't know about you, but as a single mom, I wanted to make some extra money. I always feel like I have to make extra money for some reason as a single mom to make up for not having 2 incomes. But the challenge for a lot of single moms is having to choose between family and finances, right? So if I get a second job, I'm likely going to be away from my kid, and that's going to cost money. I'm going to have to pay for someone to watch my child while I'm working, which will take up the money that I make while I'm working. So I was very excited to be able to land a part-time work from home customer service position. Customer service positions are excellent ways to make extra money. It's an easy position to do as entry level. So let's say you're fresh out of college, you're just now going into the workforce. You've been out of the workforce for a long time, or you are transitioning from very physical work to wanting to do virtual work. Customer service is an excellent option. And so I worked in 2008 for a company called West Telecommunications. They used to be telemarketers, but they got into the business of doing customer service. And they would hire contractors to work on customer service projects for them. And so my project was Toys R Us. So I used to help people pick out toys in the Toys R Us catalog from the comfort of my home, and I did not have to leave my daughter. That was back in 2008. In 2009, I got my first full-time customer service position with American Express. What an excellent job. This was such a great job. Again, I wanted to make extra money. I think at the time my daughter was in elementary school now, and I had recently purchased a new house. I had purchased my first home. It was a big, beautiful house, but it also came with a big, beautiful mortgage and a whole lot of expenses to furnish it and upkeep it as well. And so I wanted to make extra money. And I landed a position with I was in the very first class of American Express customer service reps from home. I was in their very first class of at-home reps, and it was an excellent job with great benefits. The benefits were so good that I ended up transferring my benefits from my full-time job at the Home Depot. I worked during the day in the corporate office at Home Depot, and at night would come home and hop on the phones with American Express. I ended up changing my benefits from the Home Depot to American Express because their benefits were so good. And I'll tell you, American Express still does hire at-home customer service reps, but it is very competitive. That doesn't mean you shouldn't apply. Absolutely apply, but just know it is very, very competitive. In 2013, I ended up leaving the Home Depot, and I didn't want to go back into the workforce. I think at this time my daughter was maybe in the 5th grade. She was about 10 years old, or about to be 10 years old. At the time my daughter was about 9 or 10 years old. And I don't know about you, but as a single mom, one of the things I always hated about being a working mom is having to race the clock every day. Every day at exactly 5 o'clock, I had to get up from my desk, rush to my daughter's school to pick her up from aftercare, rush home, get her changed, get her to soccer practice, get her back home, get her homework done, get her fed, bathed, and in the bed on time. And during that time, I really didn't get to spend quality time with her. And it was starting to show in her behavior at school. And it was very frustrating for me. I mean, we even got kicked out of aftercare because I kept getting there late. It's a challenge. Like as soon as the workday ends, you are now racing the clock to get everything done before you put your kids to bed, and you look up and you haven't even spent time with them. And so when I left the Home Depot, I decided I did not want to go back into an office. That is when I started freelancing. I freelanced as a project manager and picked up a few clients. I had one client in London, one client in Costa Rica, I had a client in New York, and one in Chicago. I'll do another video about how I built up clients doing freelance project management work, but I want you to know that freelancing is actually a great way to be flexible, be remote, and to make money. Those clients end up paying me enough to cover my living expenses. And I got those clients in various different ways. And it made it possible for me to be home every day when my daughter got home from school. When she got home from school every day, I would have like a homemade second lunch ready for her. And we could ease into our afternoon routine. She could play, and then we could do homework, and then we can ease on down the road to soccer practice and come on back home and have dinner. And it was such a different experience, and I'm so glad that I was able to do that. So a lot of you out there, you're moms, you want to work remotely so that you can be home with your kids, and I will tell you there are options out there for that. In 2015, I had gone back into a cubicle. I had gone back into working for a really great company that was only 10 minutes from my house, which is the only reason why I took that job. I worked for a software company, and I loved working there. However, I was ready to move abroad. At this point in my life, I was ready to travel. I was ready to get out of the country. And I had asked my company if they would allow me to move to their Europe office to work, and they declined. They turned me down. And so I decided I wanted to start a digital business. And I needed to be able to travel, and I needed to be able to use my time to invest in myself to build this business as well. You know how it is. I think one of the things that I really, really hate about being an adult in a cubicle at work is having to look busy. You know what I mean? So I happen to be very efficient. I happen to get my work done really quickly. And so if I've got extra time, I, as a reasonable adult, want to be able to use my time in the way that I see fit. And perhaps that means that I'm spending some time learning some new things, taking some courses, or working on my own side hustle and my own business. But sitting in an office, it's tough to do that, right? So you're sitting there, you're trying to work on your website, and your boss comes by and you try to hurry up and pull up that Excel spreadsheet to make it look like you're busy. I don't like faking busy. And so at this point, I wanted the flexibility to work from home again so that I could, one, invest time in myself, and two, so that I could travel and build this travel business that I was looking into. At the time, I had a friend who worked for a software company based in California. And he was like, you know what, Libria, you should come work for my company. They hire project managers. And I'll be honest, I made this assumption that there's no way they would pay me what I was making to do the same work from home. So I ignored him for about 3 to 6 months. I just kind of ignored the offer and ignored the suggestion. And at some point I was like, my assumptions may not be true. I should at least ask the question. So I asked him, hey, how much do they pay project managers at your company? Y'all, they were paying more. They were paying more than I was making. The salary range was higher than what I was making. And so I got that job and started working from home again in 2015, which gave me the opportunity to invest time into myself. It also gave me the opportunity to travel. And then in 2016, I launched a business. I took a group of people around the world for a year. I launched a digital business that could be portable, that I could do from anywhere. And that is planning long-term travel for other people. So that's 2016. And when I returned to the US, I was actually recruited via LinkedIn by the CEO of the company I work for now. At the time, they were not set up to be a remote company. They maybe had one remote employee, but the CEO expected me to be based in Atlanta. In fact, that was actually in my employment contract, that I was supposed to move to Atlanta. At the time, I was living in Tallahassee, Florida, in my hometown. And funny enough, I was already planning to move to Atlanta, which is why I agreed to that. But one of the things that I did, one of the very first things that I negotiated is, sure, I'll move to Atlanta, but I need you guys not to care where I work from. The great thing is that because I was working with people that I had worked with previously, and I already had brand equity with those folks, I could negotiate being able to do my job from anywhere. And so one of the very first things that I negotiated when I walked in the door is being able to work from anywhere. And I was able to get that. So right now, that is the company that I work for. I've been there for 3 years, and I negotiated being able to work from anywhere with that company. And so, like I said before, I have worked remotely in every single way there is to work remotely. I've worked remotely for a company that hires remote employees. I've worked remotely as a freelancer, as a digital business owner, and I have convinced my employer to let me work remotely. I think this can be the year that you work remotely as well. So let me tell you what to do next. Now that you know my story, it's time to start working on yours. I have loads of resources and information that can help you find and land remote work, but you're gonna have to use it. Step one, I want you to go ahead and subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so that you get alerted every time I post new information about how you can do great work from anywhere. The next thing I want you to do is make sure you're using the links in the description. I put a whole lot of links in the description to this video. It includes my free guide, a link to my Instagram where I share a whole lot of information about remote jobs and even remote jobs that I've found, a link to my course that will guide you through the 4 phases of finding and landing remote work. I also included a link to the Quit Commuting Conference, which if you're watching this video in time, you can register for. It's April 23rd through 25th. And there's a link to the Quit Commuting Academy as well, where you will get weekly coaching, weekly masterclasses, and access to career experts. All right. This is Labria, and I'm so excited about you doing great work from anywhere. I'll see you in the next video.